We have a very special guest today. Chief Warrant Officer, retired Joe Wurm, spent 30 years in the Army, retired as a Chief Warrant Officer 5, the highest ranking warrant officer in the Army. But he spent 30 years keeping the Army running, repairing their vehicles, training people to repair their vehicles. And he's a fabulous restorer. He's got a great collection himself of 57 Chevys. And they're probably, those photos I sent you are probably some of the most beautiful 57s I've ever seen. Joe,
is it
good
this,
morning.
Morning.
Yeah, I've got some pictures up
Look
now.
at that. Whoa.
Those are some really beautiful cars.
Yeah.
And I understand Joe did almost all the work on these cars himself.
Wow.
All right.
Whoa.
Well,
Wow.
welcome, Joe. Welcome to the Auto Lab.
Yes.
I
Thank
love
you.
the
Appreciate
station
it.
wagons.
Joe,
Yeah,
tell us,
that-
how did you get
that's what-
started in this business?
Well, 5 years old, my dad and his friend Chocolate George took me into a junkyard because I was so small I can get in there and get under dashes, and kept cutting the wires out from under there so we can get the copper and stuff. And then I continued from there, stripping cars. My dad loved racing and stuff, so I was always trying to help him tear things apart, making it difficult to get put back together. And from there, I just got a couple cars. I got a 55 Olds first, started out with that, was running around, driving that around. My first car obviously was an Edsel. It didn't last long because it kept breaking on me, and it just lived up to its day, fix and repair daily. But then I got that Oldsmobile, and it was a good car, and it turned out to be a class project when I went to college here with the automotive engineering stuff, technology, and we rebuilt the engine, a nice 324 and a 4-speed hydromatic transmission. And we learned that even on a gauge, it didn't have a park, but we figured out after rebuilding it, that park was actually in reverse mode when you turn the car off. And it just had a love for cars. I worked in junkyards for years, and then in the military, fixing things all the time. It's just in my blood. The people know me, say I bleed maintenance. So pretty good. Yeah.
So when you enlisted, was it your intention to go into vehicle maintenance?
Yeah, yes, it was. Actually, you do the pre-test, and that's what I scored the highest in, and that was my passion already at the time. I said, that looks like that's for me. And
Wow.
And 50 years later, I'm still tinkering with the stuff and loving it. I'm looking for getting another vehicle to help try to, add to my 57 collection. Hopefully, I can find me a Cameo one day. And that's my dream, is to have one of each 57 before my time comes. That'd be my collection out there. So I'm pretty well on my way with that.
And what is it about the 57s that you kind of keyed in on and you locked in on?
Well, 57 was the car my dad drove around when we were little kids and everything. So we all rode back in a 57 two-door, four-door wagon, and he drove it. Then my brother got it for school, and he drove it for a while. And then I got it when I started school for a little bit. By then it had about 250,000+ miles on it.
Wow.
Used to have to station, say fill up with oil and check the gas kind of thing.
Yeah.
An iconic year for sure. An iconic year.
Yeah, so it just grew on me. So after that, every time I saw one of these days, I'm gonna have to get my own. And of course, it took quite a few years, and finally got it in I think it was 1975, 78. Was in that time frame I started picking up on the 57s.
Was that the Corvette that you got first?
No. The first car I got was a 57 convertible. I got it from a guy. He painted it Sierra Gold. It was the wrong color and stuff. I drove it for quite a few years, and then I got deployed with the Army. I kept getting deployed, so I just put it in storage at my mom's. And after a bunch of years, about 20 years later, I got the car back out of storage and restored it and put it back to the right color, Matador red. And that took me about almost 3.5, 4 years to get that one done. And then haven't driven it much since then, because I did all this work, put all this money. I want to go show it to all these different shows and see how it stands up against all these other guys that been doing this stuff for years. See how high it rates. So it took me a while to get things right in some different ways, but I learned. Then I went to Classic Chevy, became a judge for 57 Chevys. So they're like rated number 2 or 3 judge in the country on 57 Chevys
Wow.
with Classic Chevy. So again, it's like 57s are there, and I get phone calls all the time. Like, what bolt goes here? What happens with this? And how do you take and fix this? That kind of stuff. You know how it goes. You guys are into the business.
The detail is amazing. What you guys go through, I've seen it. It's unmatched as far as I'm concerned.
So Joe, speaking of judging, tell us about your Nomad that got a perfect score.
That Nomad, that's an amazing car. I got that car from a guy in San Diego. He had tore the car apart in 1970. And the body was in a barn. The frame and engine and transmission were in a bedroom, which he had actually built up around it. And so it took a lot to get that frame stuff out of there. And he had all the fenders and hoods and stuff hanging in the house, around the house, like art in the house. And
Wow.
he married a gal from Great Britain, and she said, something's got to give her. I can't have an engine in my kitchen. And
Oh,
so I got the car, and then I stripped it back down again because he painted it black. I stripped it all down, and zero rust. The first car I ever had, it had no rust on it. And every panel on that car had a little 3-digit number that I'd never seen on any of the other cars I worked on. So you could tell that's how it was assembled. So it was a rust-free car, and put it together. 3 years after putting it together, I went on a circuit with it. I said, all right, I'm going to take it out and see how I do with judging. So first thing I did, I went to pick a friend up in Indiana. We went to a show there. And it got best of show at the mom and pop show. Then from there, we went down to Arkansas to Classic Chevy, which was having a concourse show down there, a judging show for points, and the 1,000-point judging system. And my car got 1,000 points out of 1,000 points, which was awesome.
that is amazing. That is amazing. Wow.
And then from there, I went to Roanoke, Virginia, to an all Nomad show. And I won best paint, best interior, best overall 5, 6, or 7 Nomad in the country for that one. And from there, this is all one road trip. Went to Hershey with AACA, and I got my junior awards. First time I showed it at Hershey, I got my junior award. And next thing I know, there's a couple of people walking around the car, looking at the car. And the guy walks away and said, well, their car has just been nominated for a national award, which is surprised me. What's that? I wasn't familiar because that was just my first experience with AACA. So about 3,000 or 4,000 cars get looked at during the year, and then we get down to about 400 in November, and then in December they choose the top 44, 46 cars, and then they announced who won those, and I was one of the selectees for that, and I had to go up and wear a suit up in Philadelphia to pick up my award, which I ended up getting a Baumgartner award. A lot of people have said, I was told you had to wear a tux. I didn't have a tux, so I ended up wearing just a regular suit, and I got away with it, but that was pretty cool. So that's a really nice car. It's one of the best cars I got in my collection. It's made the magazine like 3 different times. The centerfold.
Wow.
Joe, when you were building that car, were you thinking about the awards? You weren't thinking about
No, I was thinking about just getting me a real nice car. I mean, a Nomad is one of the elite 57s in my mind because it just got so much beauty to them. All the extras and everything I have on that. Just going through the detail. One of the toughest things I had was I was going to get the stainless done by somebody else, and the price that came back was astronomical. I said, I think I'm going to do this myself. So I went and got me a buffing machine and the tools, and I had the guy that was doing stainless show me a little bit how to knock out the dents and stuff. And so I worked about 400 hours taking all the dents and polishing that stainless in that car. And ended up putting it back together, and like the windshield, I put it by myself. That was a challenge.
Wow.
Those kinds of things. But that was the passion of love. And I said, I'm going to do this all myself as much as I can, other than the paint. I did everything.
I got a few moldings that I could send you.
I just put a windshield in my Porsche 914. It is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Talk about commitment to excellence, Joe. What a great example.
So, I mean, is there a lot of transfer of knowledge of fixing tanks and fixing Nomads? What are the similarities or the differences?
Well, in the old APCs actually had a small block Chevy in them.
Really?
So, yeah.
And Joe, this is the one
punched
here.
out to a 301.
This is the Nomad you're talking about. Is this one the silver?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you can see the one article up there on the right there where I got 4 pages of talked about the car, how I picked it up, like I mentioned to you. And San Diego's got the whole story in there. Well, I dropped my wife. We were on vacation. We were with the couples up in Napa Valley, and I got the phone call, come get the car. And I told my wife, sorry, baby, I'm leaving the vacation to go get this car. I got you a first class ticket home. So forgive me, will you?
Well, that's taking care of business.
When did she start talking with you again? How long?
As soon as I bought her some jewelry.
Oh, okay. Well,
When did you have to buy her the Corvette?
I got the Corvette 3 years ago up in Naples, New York. And again, that car, I got the history from that car from 1960 to Ford. I got everybody that owned that car, the copies of the titles, all the documentation, what they did to the car and everything. And actually a doctor in the 80s painted it red. And I got the car from this guy up there, Gary Gimmon, and he did a lot of work on it the 40 years that he had the car. and he's up in his upper 80s. I think he's turned 90 this year, and he just wanted somebody that was going to have the passion for the car like he did. He didn't want to give it to one of his kids because they felt they would just modify it or destroy it from what he thought the original car should be. So we talked for a while, and he said, "No, you seem like the right guy to me." So I bought it from him and brought it home, and it took a couple things off. But I said, "Well, it needs a little work here and there." So when you start stripping the car, you start finding different things. And I realized that the car was actually Cascade Green, and I did have a letter from 1960 that it was Cascade Green. I said, "Well, I'm a purist, so I've got to put this car back." And but most of the work was done. In last year, I've actually finished this car in about 10 months, and I actually showed it in 2020 after I tore it apart. You can see it went down to the frame and everything. I rebuilt the engine myself, transmission, rear end, all that stuff there is all done. And that they had County Corvette, a Corvette place paint the body, and I'd prep it up, paint it, then I reassembled it, and they had to say the same thing as what you're saying is with attention to detail. You really did a lot of work this car yourself, putting it together. And that Corvettes are a challenge after they do the painting on that day. They put that gel coat on there, then all of a sudden nothing fits anymore. You're out there with a razor blade trying to cut all the holes to make everything fit. I found that was a lot tougher than the metal car. When you run across that stuff, that took a lot of hours and a lot of patience because you didn't want to scratch that new paint.
What color was she when you bought her?
It was red. He actually got posted as a guy when he was in Colorado with his wife up there playing his banjo and stuff in a field. So I still got all the old red interior and everything that came out of it that they put in at that time. It was actually turned into a race car in 1960, and they took the fuel injection out, put 2.4 motor in it, and raced it for a while, Frenched the headlights. And the guy in 63 decided he wanted to put it back to original, and they started back to original and slow process. And now it is back, obviously 100% original. As you guys know, restored cars are much better than what they were new.
Oh, yeah.
We definitely over-restore things.
So he kept the engine. So it's still matching numbers.
Hey guys,
matching numbers.
Wow.
I actually even got the other engine he had in it. They had the 2.4 motor that they put in it to race with. I actually got that motor with the car too, and I got it on a stand in my garage just as a display piece.
These older vehicles, I have to tell you, the history that's involved. I own a 69 Z28 that was also went from original to race, and now we're putting it back to an all original car. And the detail and history is just it's fascinating. It really is.
Cars have a story.
Yeah.
You know, with my 914, when I got it, my wife was kind of going over the car, and I would have never found this. So credit to my wife. She reaches inside the visor, and there's a little pocket there. It's not like a pocket where it had a flap where you could tell it was a pocket. It was almost like a little slash in it. And she reaches her hand in and pulls out a piece of paper, and it's like an insurance card from 1974 when the car was brand new. So I had the guy's name, I had his address. I went online, and I went and did the
you found him.
I found the guy and spoke with him and got some of the history of the car. But so many of these things, if you don't have those little connections, they just get lost to time. Yeah. So the idea that Joe was able to kind of track the lineage of these cars, that's the stories are always just amazing with him. And I also learned that I can never try to get anything over on my wife, because if she can find it, I mean, that's just.
You're just learning that. How many years?
I better make sure I don't have any little receipt that I might have in my wallet or something.
She's gonna find it.
She'll find the little piece of paper in the thing.
I think that's what we're gonna lose, though. We're gonna lose what you're talking about, the essence of that, with these electric vehicles.
Well, come on.
No, but a friend of mine says, and this is meant in the literal sense of the word. He loves Teslas, but I thought it was interesting that he described me. He said, I love the electric cars and I love Teslas, and I would consider buying one, but they're soulless.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? That's a really accurate kind of way to look at them, I think, because they're all identical, basically.
They all look exactly the same. Yes.
And they function really well, but there's a soul that's missing from them.
It was a 100-year-old Baker or Detroit Electric soulless also.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
I don't think it's because it's electric. I think it's just because of It's because of the way we look at cars today. It's because of, and you guys have heard me say this, 100 times, like when aerodynamics and fuel economy started to become the most driving, if you will, force in car design. A lot of the design went out the window because air flows the same regardless of what kind of car you're driving. So the similarities in the way cars look, the unique design elements went by the wayside in favor of fuel economy.
Yeah, that's why today we're talking about the only design frontier left is the interior.
Yeah, pretty much.
I have to tell you though, this 55 Oldsmobile 88 that we got in this week, every piece on this car is like a piece of art. The emblems on it, it's like a super 88. Like there was so much detail paid and attention to these older vehicles that
they didn't care how much things
Yeah.
weighed.
Oh,
weight. You could have extra chrome or extra. What did you want to say, Joanna?
Yeah, and years ago you guys used to name the cars. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody naming a car recently.
Oh, you mean just like you're like,
Just
here's Betty,
you
know, that kind of thing. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. That speaks to the soulless nature, I think.
Yep.
I don't know. I think part of the problem now is where the soul went is that like the industry still, or these cars are still relatively young. I think that, as like Tesla is very proprietary about their information, but already the aftermarket is starting to like move in. And I think people will start customizing these things. And I think people start programming. I mean, it'll be a whole different thing. It'll be the programs in them, the interiors, the whatever. I mean, it'll be different. It won't be.
Well, don't get me wrong. I would love it. I'm looking at a Model 3. The only thing that's holding me back is having the right power in my garage, which is a whole separate situation.
Speaking about things being different, Joe, tell us about all the thousands of people you've trained to repair vehicles that we can now hopefully hire.
Yeah, that is a little bit of truth. That I have trained some guys in the military for diagnostics and doing some things out there instead of troubleshooting through replacement, how to properly diagnose stuff. But I found out once I got them that extra skill set and you're able to do all that, people like you were buying them away from the Army. I hired them out, get out, and I'll give you this extra money. Since you got this skill, you can save me money to fix things versus spending money replacing parts.
So David.
Yeah.
Now that you're connected with Joe, maybe he can send you some text.
Oh man, Joe, I've got your number, man. I have your email. No, it's very, and I got to say that, guys and gals coming out of the military. I had my vaccine, a couple of months ago, and it was being run. There was Army medics there, and I met a gal who was and I was talking to her, and she's I had my work shirt on, and she said, "Oh, you got a shop?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's a mechanic in the Army, and I said, "Please call me when you get out, because the skill set that they get in the military is absolutely incredible, and the discipline, the approach to the job, and we're eager to hire veterans for sure." And
Joe, tell us what the technical training is like in the military today.
It's pretty intense. The technical training, for the most part, in the schoolhouse, you go through anywhere from 16 weeks to a year worth of training and stuff, and then it's always on the job. It's never ending for sure. But like he said, hiring a guy out of the military, there's no doubt that. But I found that because I worked at Firestone for a while, and I could not find anybody that would care about. It's not my stuff, but you get the guys from the military, the work ethic and everything they got coming out with the skills and everything. But night and day difference. It's really awesome that you pick up on it. And tell
us about some of the stuff that you've worked on over the years.
Well, you name it. I went to the generators in the Army. They got M16s, weapons, tanks. I was a tank turret repairman for quite a while, and but all the trucks and stuff, we went from the old gas or Deuce up to the diesel engines. So I got the whole gamut of the different kinds of engines and transmissions, and now the modern technology is like you're talking out there. Everything is going electronic, so you really got to be on top of your game and stuff, and be able to diagnose things. Otherwise, you can replace, because all the modules is like your cars on those trucks out there. You know, people, you could be out changing a $75,000 engine when there's only a $5 module bad because you don't have proper diagnostic capability or don't know what you're doing. And it's just a shame. And that's what we're kind of doing out now, running around the Army with my skills and the other guys I have. We're going out into units and training the mechanics in those units. You know, because we actually can see everything on what we call a readiness report, what's broken and what's got the low for hanging fruit, as I call it. They got the high dollar engines and things that are being ordered. So we fly out and we talk to these guys and can we help you with showing you how to diagnose this thing and find out if it really does need an engine. So even the guys that are supposed to be the experts, a lot of the experts out there, they're actually going. Some of the guys I have, I call them CBM techs out there. We train these guys, we bring them back here and train them up real well. And they're actually at different installations going down and helping those guys diagnose and fix things versus replacing those major assemblies, which is saving the military about $100 million a year plus.
Only.
During the pandemic, the public learned that we mechanics are essential workers, but the military is always known it doesn't move without equipment working, and we keep it working, right?
That is correct. It's a thankless job for the Army because you're not the tank driver, you're not the Apache pilot going out and doing all the Army stuff. You're the guy behind the scenes doing all the repairs, keeping those guys in business. And it's definitely a thankless job. And of course, one of my missions, obviously, is as the honorary regimental warrant of the Corps. When I get a chance, I go to units like in Kuwait and stuff and go to these places and grab them mechanics, pull them out from their tank and bring them a coin or something that I've had made up for maintenance. And I would say, hey, you pull them out. First thing I said, what did I do wrong now? You did do nothing wrong. I'm here from the States to thank you for what you're doing.
So when you say it's a thankless job, that's not a very good recruiting pitch.
No, it's not. But we do get them in there and stuff. That's why you got to be able to talk to them yourself. They're seeing all the credit and stuff, everything going on out there, all the wars that are won and battles won and stuff like that are going to mainly to those guys that are doing the fighting and stuff. But so people like me and other leaders have got to make sure that those guys and gals out there doing this great job for the United States in the Army are getting recognized for all that they're doing and stuff, and it's show appreciation.
So we've had several Army and Marine Corps recruiters on talking about training opportunities in the military. So here's your chance to be a recruiter and tell everybody the benefits of getting technical training in the military and all the great jobs that they can have when they get out.
Yeah, one of the things we're doing now, a lot of people don't realize when we are training these guys up, going through all this training we're talking about, as you know, you got all these ASE certifications. We're actually getting them ASE certifications along with the training when it relates to with those type of things out there with the brakes and the engines and whatnot. So they're get a lot of certifications. There's a benefit to you get this training, you do this job good and everything. You pretty much guaranteed you're going to get something on the outside. You can relate to it, as opposed to those guys that are actually shooting the weapons or the helicopter pilot. You could be a pilot, but you're a fighter. You're not gonna. It's not easy to find a job out there once you get out of the military for a killer, if you will, or something like that. But it is easy if you got a skill set like a mechanic.
Sure,
that's a really great point. And what about electric? Is the Army going into electric at all?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of electric stuff in there. Actually, we're getting quite a bit of, like the drones and the different things where you got no operators in the vehicle. You actually game or something like that. So you sit back and there is a lot of electrical stuff going on there. We are getting some things into the electric phase. We're slowly getting that. We're years away from it, but we're actually testing it, working with it, and going that direction also in a lot of ways.
I know you work at the Proving Ground. You're working on a lot of future stuff, I imagine. Can you tell us?
I'm not personally, but the Proving Ground, I get involved with testing, and when they get something out,
if it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Are you reverse engineering UFOs as well?
Haven't got that far.
Hey, I saw
the answer is no comment.
Joe reverses anything on a 57 Chevy, right?
Yeah, or even that 55Os that you guys working on there. Actually, I think I got the original service manual for that car still.
I didn't even realize when you said, Joey, I didn't even realize when you said that park was in reverse, and I've been in the transmission business for 40 years. So I get in the car and it's in neutral and the emergency brake is on and the customer says, drive is in the exact opposite position.
Right.
Then I didn't realize you just said, so park is in reverse.
Yeah, when you put it in reverse and you turn off the engine, the hydraulic pressure releases, and it brings a dog over and locks into a drum like a regular park would do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. See, learn something every day.
That's correct.
In the distance learning classroom there.
That's
Here we are.
correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that
amazing.
information, Joe.
Well, Joe, we
I
really
would-
appreciate you being on and sharing thank you for your service too, and
Yes.
sharing all of your
Absolutely.
amazing experience. And so if people are interested in joining your team and signing up or whatever, how do they go about doing that?
We have folks out there. There's a lot of recruiting offices out there, but we do have teams of people like myself for going out to and try to recruit warrant officers. And then, of course, you got to get in there and go through the ranks and enlisted a little bit first, and then you get there. Unless you've got a special skill like a pilot or something like that, you go right in as a warrant officer. But we do have we go to the mentorship. We go to a lot of schools, high schools and stuff. We're to get ready to graduate. Either you're going to go to college, maybe, or here's an option for you to go into service, and we can get you help you get a degree in the service where you don't have to pay for it. It's paid for by the military, and that's a big drive for a lot of folks. So they can, because we're getting money to get our college education. Well, to go to the military, you can do do the job there to learn a trade, plus get your college out of the way.
Well, that's great.
So, Joe, welcome home, and I hope your collection, I can get to see it someday.
And I'm definitely going to figure out a way to find you, Joe, and maybe you can connect me with some of your prize veterans who are leaving the service and want to join it back into the private sector, because we are desperate for great trained techs like the
Here.
Like
I get a lot of resumes from those guys. Say, help me out, tell me where I should go next and stuff. But I got to add to, if I got time, I got to add to, going to all these car shows with classic Chevy and everything, and going like to the James Dean run and stuff. I had a big goal in my mind when I retired, and I decided I had to get a memorial out there for all the fallen ordnance soldiers, since we didn't have a memorial in the Army for them. And actually, these car guys, I went to into Gas City, Indiana, took my sedan delivery out there, and because they saw me down the Pentagon with it down in Prateville for a Wounded Warrior ceremony. I brought it out there, lowered the flag to half mast, and told them I was trying to raise money for a memorial and stuff. And I thought I was going to be able to do it quickly for a 200th anniversary that we were celebrating out there with the Ordnance Corps. And boy, that didn't happen. I mean, that was so wrong that I get money quick for that memorial. You'd think that kind of cause you get it pretty easily. It took me 10 years. I had dark brown hair when I started that. Just 3 weeks ago, I finally got that memorial put in
May
place.
May 21st, right?
Congratulations.
Yeah, tell us real quickly about the memorial and about the Ordnance Corps.
The Ordnance Corps basically you think ordnance is, you think it's bombs and all that stuff, but actually ordnance is all maintenance for the Army. Ground maintenance and things like that. We got EOD, the Explosive Ordnance Detachment, the guys that go out there in the battlefield and get all this unexploded ordnance and make it safe for the soldiers to go by picking this stuff up or exploding in place, making it safe for everybody. And then we got munitions, and then explosive safety. That's the four components of Ordnance Corps. Maintenance being the biggest, where we Ordnance has over 100,000 soldiers out there in that specific part of the competency for the overall Ordnance Corps, which is larger than the rest put together. And then the memorial, like I said, we were one of the few corps in the Army that did not have a memorial for its fallen soldiers, and I think that was just so wrong that you just can't explain it from coming from a soldier, seeing that those guys that paid the ultimate sacrifice don't have something to remember them by, and everybody else does. The closest thing we had was EOD had one down in Eglin in Florida, but that was only, like I said, a small piece of ordnance. So, like I said, I took it on myself, and like I was up there in Gas City, and I got this 57 Chevy you saw with all the my history on there with Afghanistan on one side, Iraq airbrush on the other side, the War Eagle on the tailgate. The inside, you got all the leather panels in the back from actually photos from Vietnam, tool 3-dimensional leather, and I have a display box with all the dog tags from all the ordnance soldiers since 9/11 that I put outside the car. And the guy took a tree stump with a chainsaw, cut a soldier, cut what we call dead soldier. You can actually see it laying on the floor back there. But I set that up there in Gas City, and the guy had running the show, and there's about 3,000 cars at the show at the Ducktail Run there. And we set up the display. And I opened this book up that talked about all those dog tags, and the guy jumped back. See, you just did. You know who that soldier is? That's the only soldier from this town that was killed in action during the war on terrorism.
Wow.
And oh, by the way, Joe, not more than 53 from us right here over here. There's a big rock. There's a memorial right there for that soldier. You know, I got chills. My hair raised up a little bit.
Wow.
I couldn't think because you got a better chance of winning lottery than that. And I got to meet his family and stuff, and it was just great. His mother, father, wife, kids. And I told him, I said, you know, I'm the honorary regiment of war, and I just got notified another soldier was killed, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to add another photo and stuff in this book I got. Do you want me to change another photo here? And I said, Bradley King, I said, I knew your son. I actually trained him for a little bit. And he wouldn't have done anything different but survive and continue on with what he was doing, you know, taking care of making America safe. And they looked at me and said, nope, we have no complaints at all, except. And I said, except what? And his dad said, well, he was killed, as you know, 3 years ago, and we've been trying to get his headstone fixed in the cemetery. It's wrong for the last 3 years, and everybody keeps pushing us away. And I said, who you been talking to, kind of stuff. And I finally got a hold of this colonel that we're talking to, and I actually had to go see him because he was getting belligerent with me on the phone too, to go see him. And I said, I know you outranked me and all that stuff, sir, but we got some unfinished business here. We got a soldier's headstone. Is that correct? Many people don't know, if you're killed in action, you're entitled to the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart being on your headstone. Yeah. And it wasn't there. So I had to go all the way up to the Chief of Staff of the Army, another warrant officer friend of mine, W5 up there, and find out. We tracked it down. The bottom line was the unit was at fault because they never put his records where he was killed in action in his file. So when we made a headstone for him, as he's entitled to, they didn't put that other stuff on it.
Did you bring your 5 pound? Did you bring your 5 pound sledgehammer to out with the colonel?
The BFH.
Yeah, well, I pretty much did, and he started to apologize to me. He said, "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to that family. You know, that family is one you should be apologizing to." And I was actually able to get that new headstone out there, and had come up with another $500 to get it replaced. But it was January; it was too cold. You couldn't pull the headstone out until a couple months later when it thawed out a little bit. But we finally got that done. And the other one was again at the car show. I was down there in Nashville to actually put my sedan delivery inside the lobby of the hotel with another car or two to display what I had there. And this couple was looking through my book, and they backed up. Holy cow, look at it. That's our son. I want to thank you for keeping our son's memory alive. Wow. Again, showing the importance of having a memorial and something like that, because I think I don't know whether it's just Americans or if it's human nature in general, but we forget way too easy. So if we don't have people out there with things like me with the car, or put memorials out there to help people remember and stuff, and even all the guys that are out there wandering the streets right now that are out of the service and stuff, you got to be able to go out and do something to help those guys and keep what they did alive, and their faith in what they did was right.
Joe, that tombstone story is just more proof that it takes a mechanic to fix things.
Joey, did you figure out how to fit more than 24 hours into a day? Because it sounds to me like, you got like 40 hours a day. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like he's.
Yeah, most people that know me said they like to be able to bottle some of my blood or something, because I actually get up at 4 o'clock, now later at 4 o'clock every day, and I go to bed around midnight. And I do have to say, you got so much energy. We can't believe that you're doing all this. And like my other car friends that know me said, where do you find time to fix these cars, do this work on the cars and stuff? And it's just a love for the car,
Yeah, Mike said that you were a true car guy, because I had never heard of you, and it's been a pleasure to listen to your stories, and you're
so great,
amazing human being. Thank you so much for all your service.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks
so
for having me.
We're going to take a little break, and we're going to hear about something that's also really important for veterans. Of course, it's the Gold Shield. Thank you so much, Joe. We'll be back right after this.